around and look at these pictures, you'll see that these were not old, weathered, seasoned men. These were young men.
I was 18 when I went.
Okay, well, I didn't want to say boys, you know. But these were not seasoned veterans. And what I would think about that when they would talk about what Timothy McVeigh did at that federal building, that, to me, that was not the first time America experienced domestic terrorism. At 18, and you being put under that kind of stress, that was more than stress. That was terrorism. And we're not talking about what they went through down at Tuskegee, outside the base, in the 40s, early 40s, 1940, before the war started and during their training. So this is all part of their story. And good, bad, and indifferent, how ugly it was. These young men persevered. They went on to set an example for others to follow and a military record that transcends even the military records that are being set today. And recall, America didn't want them to fly. And if you read some of the chronicles, a lot of things came from the highest offices in the land to see that to try to make this experiment/experience fail. But these young men that you're looking at, they persevered. And without further ado, I'm going to pick the next one. Oh, you see all the eyes shit. Let's go on and have 𝒥𝑜𝒽𝓃 up here. 𝒥𝑜𝒽𝓃. Now you see, Porter don't always look like this now. It's Porter right there.
Thank you for the wonderful
𝒥𝑜𝒽𝓃 from Little Rock, Arkansas.
Oh, I'll tell you about that.
Okay.
Okay, 𝒥𝑜𝒽𝓃 Sr. was born in Little Rock, Arkansas, October 19th, 1916, to Clayton and Elmira Myrick. 𝒥𝑜𝒽𝓃's mother died when he was the tender age of 9 months old. His stepmother, Penny Myrick, made Porter, the youngest of the 6 kids, feel as comfortable as possible. They helped him to have strong family ties. A member of his family had a run-in with a white owner of a local store who had affiliations with the Ku Klux Klan, that's the KKK. This led the family to be harassed by the KKK, who rode back and forth in front of our home. The home was eventually set on fire. These incidents, coupled with the economic depression that many families experienced in the South, led the Myricks to migrate to Chicago, Illinois in 1923 to find a safe haven and a better way of life. Porter Myrick graduated from Wendell Phillips High School, and then from there he went to Wilson Junior College, which is now Kennedy King College, on the same campus. He was active in basketball, track, and football team. He also attended Xavier University. While he was at Xavier University, he was deferred until he graduated. He graduated June 20th, 1941, with a Bachelor of Science degree for a double major in education and physical education. He then took the examination, which landed him a competitive scholarship to attend the Coffey School of Aeronautics, which was located in Old Harlem Airport in Chicago. This is where he began his civilian pilot training. Once again, the draft was deferred until graduation. Porter received his civilian pilot's license December the 26th, 1941, and a certificate for private pilots, evidence of aeronautic knowledge and skill, on March the 5th, 1942. On September the 15th, 1942, Porter was driven to Tuskegee Air Base in Alabama by the late Felix Kirkpatrick, who was the ground instructor in the Coffee School of Aeronautics. Felix introduced Porter to Benjamin Davis Jr. Felix and Benjamin met earlier at West Point. Porter spent the next 3.5 years in the Army Air Corps and was in Class 43E at the Tuskegee Airmen Flying School. He became a physical instructor and helped many people to recover from their injuries and to mentally deal with their restrictions. Porter remembered how the military, well, you see, this can get me pretty critical as far as we reacting to these situations. Okay. Porter came back to Chicago and qualified for a job as physical rehabilitation instructor and eventually became a corrective therapy supervisor. He married Mabel Smith on September the 5th, 1943 at Corpus Christi Church. He had 2 children, Madeleine Norton, who is at presently on the staff at Malcolm X College, head of the reading department. Porter was a distinguished tennis player and was inducted into the Winterfield School Hall of Fame on October the 21st, 1988, in the field of social service. Porter won first place medals in the Senior Olympics in Springfield, Illinois, at September the 7th, 1978, in the field of track, tennis, swimming, archery, bowling. Porter is retired as a coordinator of Foster and Tuley Park senior citizens and is currently active in dancing classes at both parks, in addition to Avalon Park. He has also been a member of the Tuskegee Airmen, the Dodo chapter, since its inception, November 1978. My most impressive memories. A friend of mine, Juanita Miller, introduced me to George Washington Carver. He was on the Tuskegee Air Base. He lived on the campus there. I spent a whole afternoon talking with him. I felt very impressed with him. He was very receptive, gracious, and personable. When Mr. Carver died the next year, people from all over the world attended his funeral, including famous people who had valued Mr. Carver's contribution. Lowest point, the lowest point. While at Stinson Field, a white civilian woman said a black military man raped her. They had all the blacks to stand in line, I included, and she walked past us looking suspiciously at every one of us. Although no one was picked out, it was a very humiliating experience. The message to the youth: hang in there, stay in the struggle, and succeed at all costs. My greatest accomplishment? Being alive and healthy at 87 years old. I guess that's
Mr. Porter.
Oh, yeah.
I know you said dancing.
Oh, didn't I mention you swear dancing?
Now, what type of dancing?
Oh, I'm very active in round. Bob, how are you?
Now, what
Very
type of
active in
dancing?
square dancing and round dancing on a daily basis. I play tennis 4 or 5 times a week at the tennis center, Buckhalter's Tennis Center in Tuley Park. And that's one of the activities that I engage in and gives me great pleasure and keeps me pretty active too.
And he gets to hug all the ladies too. He gets to give them what we call a Yellow Rock, which is a hub, square dancing. And that's where I met Mr. Porter, at square dancing. So that's another one of my things too. Okay, I'm telling you, they just falling out of the skies. My goodness, we just had another one arrive.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And so we have another one here. Mm-hmm. Let's see now. Who wants to go next? George, they picked you. George, what do you think about it, George? Okay, here's George Taylor. Oh, that's George. There is George Taylor. George Taylor, look at the camera over there, George.
He's better looking.
Yeah.
That picture was taken many a year ago. I'm 84 years old, so. I went to Tuskegee in December of 1942 as a cadet, and I had no previous flying experience, and of course I went from the lowest on the field, because when you get to Tuskegee they have the class system, and they some way impress you that you are the lowest thing on the field. so I went from the lowest to graduating and finished my flying training in August the 30th, 1943. And shortly after that we learned to fly a few fighter planes like the P-40, then was sent to Selfish Field in Detroit. I joined the 332nd Fighter Group just before they went overseas. And our commanding officer there was General B.O. Davis, Colonel B.O. Davis at that time. And he was the first black to finish West Point in the last century. He finished in 1936. He finished high enough in his class to request the branch of the service. He requested the Army Air Corps. And he was told at that time there were no facilities for training blacks to be pilots in the Army Air Corps. So, of course, he was put on the regular tour of duty for being a military instructor at Wilberforce, Tuskegee Institute, and other schools. However, General Davis, having gone to West Point and kept us true to our mission, we were a pretty young bunch of wild guys. I mean, we were right off the street. We were disciplined, but not to the extent that the general was. Of course, we always looked to the general as a very strictly a military man. I mean, you know, he wanted things done just right, no questions, and of course, we learned a lot of techniques from him. And however, he was in the first class of cadets that were trained to be military pilots. There's one person living from that class today. He missed the last convention. He's pretty old. He's almost 90 years old now. Custis graduated with General Davis. But the Tuskegee Airmen was a great bunch of guys. We had tremendous respect for each other, and only because they performed a tremendous service to this country during World War II. We fought the war with no prejudice, although the country was prejudiced towards us. When we went into battle we held nothing against this country, although we were not treated right. We got back on the ground. And sometimes, when you think about it, we shed a little tear down then, but during the 40s, you couldn't shake a tear out of your eyes. But now, sometimes they come quite easy when I think about the time we spent in 1942 and during the war. And I went overseas. I flew with the 100th Fighter Squadron, about 240 some combat hours. And luckily I came back to the States. And I had commercial license in 1945, multi-single engine, instrument card. I applied with the old Capital Airlines, I think TWA and United. And I'm still waiting. However, roughly 450 black pilots went overseas, fought with the 12th and 15th Air Force in Europe. None of those 450 pilots became commercial pilots, so because the airlines did not start hiring until in the 70s. But I'm very glad to be with you this evening, and I think this is my second visit here, and thank you very much.
Who was the pilot that flew over Mount Vesuvius upside down?
I don't know. However, when we were in Italy in 1944, Vesuvius erupted. It was supposed to have been the most violent eruption since, I don't know, 18-something. And we were, of course, upwind. We were stationed at Capodichino Airport, which is right at the foot of Vesuvius. So when we took off, we had to make a little turn where there's wings. The crater is a mile in diameter. And to see the billows of smoke and ash, and you could see winds aloft, and everything that was downwind, you'd see people shoveling the ash off of their homes and so forth, so the wood got caught in. And it was quite a sight to behold. And so that was one lasting memory that I had of Vesuvius erupting in 1944.
Now you can see, all it was some good times too. Now there's George right there. Now you talking about a group of handsome young men. Now you know there was something else when they strapped on that flight suit, then strapped on that war machine. Oh, you know you couldn't talk to them. And then when they had the night out on the town, you know they scandalous, huh? Okay. Oh yeah. Now there's George.
That smile is, they want water.
Next we have is Robert Martin, Mrs. Martin's baby child. Look at that. Mm-hmm. Bob, turn around now, Bob. Face that way. Buffy the sleeves his nose back then, guess what came out of his ears? A little milk. Okay. Here we have, without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Robert Martin. Also known as Fox.
Good evening. I'm kind of hard of hearing, so I have to talk loud enough so I can hear it myself, and then you can hear me too. But I'm late for a couple of reasons. They moved Crown Point, Indiana, a little further east than I thought it was, and the guys that playing golf in front of me bath and change clothes and drive over here. It's quite a drive and get here. And I apologize. I hope I haven't kept you from things that you really wanted to do. But I was about the 300th cadet to graduate and get his wings down at Tuskegee. I enlisted from Iowa, passed the examination, and I got a call from the draft board. They said, you are in the Army. I said, no, I'm in the Air Corps. I passed the exam and everything. And so I'm not going to be in the Army. I'm in the Air Corps. And they said, well, if you don't meet that bus and get to that induction center on time, we're going to have the MPs after you. So I shed a few tears, actually. But nobody heard them. But anyway, I went to the induction center, and I showed them my papers, and they said, well, you got to sit and wait till your turn. You have to, your papers have to go through Washington, and they will call you. So I sat down at Camp Dodge in the induction center for 7 months, from September until May, before I went down to Tuskegee. And from the records, there were 285 graduates of the flying school before my class graduated. And we graduated 25, so if I put myself somewhere near the middle of that class, I'm about the 300th cadet to be graduated. Well, that was a great day for people of Iowa. I was about the 8th cadet from Iowa, something like that. And after graduating from Tuskegee, we flew the P-40. This was mandatory, and they shipped us up to Detroit. And to get out of the South was heaven. Detroit had nightclubs, nightlife, bars, restaurants.
Motown.
It was heaven after Tuskegee. Tuskegee was in Alabama. And the 332nd had already gone overseas. And there was just one class up at Detroit at South Richfield ahead of us, and they shortly shipped over, joined the 332nd, and there had been some unrest in confines of South Richfield. Every officer assigned to any base is automatically a member of the officer